Alright, today we're going to go over how to rebuild Kayaba twin chamber forks. This is off a 2009 CRF450, which is odd because you would think they'd use Showa because they own Showa, but apparently they tried Kayaba with their 2009 because they had a different rake setup. They built the machine more for cornering, and then maybe they had issues with Showa and just ran some Kayabas. But anyways, I'm going to show you how to replace the seals and the inner bushings on the twin chamber forks. And I'm not going to go into the inner chamber at all. I'm just going to hope that everything's good because all I have is Showa suspension tools. I don't have any Kayaba yet. So fingers crossed that the fluid level is going to be good on the inner chambers. It doesn't really matter to me anyways. I will be really going over the suspension later on this year, and I'll go through a complete rebuild with gold valves from Racetech. Right. I'm just going to do these one at a time, but at first all we're going to do is drain both forks, and you're just going to take the cap and screw it off. I already broke these free while they were on the machine. It's much easier. You just loosen the top triple tree nuts and leave the lower ones tight, and you take your special tool and take those out. And you just screw it off, slide the sleeve down, or the outer tube down, and then drain. It's going to be super thick because it's really fucking cold. So we're just going to set these up to drain. A Project ATV really works good on holding the forks in place. Do the other one. I've only had this bike a year. The fork seals went out on it, and I had no idea that they used Kayaba on this model year. Or on Honda at all. They've always been Showa. Anyways, we're going to let this drain, and we'll be back in a minute. Alright, this is the side that was blown, the left-hand side, for the rotor mounts. So I'm going to start with this because it drained quicker than the other one. It's still draining. It's so fucking cold, man. I hate the winter. Come on, spring. I'm just going to screw this back on. Just nice and snug. I don't have to go tight. And we're going to break this loose. Normally I'd break them loose on the machines, but I forgot this time. I was kind of in a hurry to get the forks off the bike to do this video and totally spaced this. So what we're going to do is go to our softest settings on our rebound and on our compression. That way when we take it apart, it doesn't damage anything. So we're going to break this loose next. I'll get the tools for that. Alright. I already softened up the compression. Make sure you count your clicks. It was 10 on compression, 8 on this. I did make some adjustments when I first got the machine. It was way too soft for me. So I stiffened it up a little bit. I just went one click on each side, and it was okay, but you know, whatever. Like I said, we're going to build this suspension later on. And if it gives you trouble, you can always take your axle, break that loose. Make sure I just wiped it down. I don't like getting grease and oil everywhere. I'm just coming all the way out with this. Alright, so we got it all loosened up. You can compress it and get your valve and see how your valve comes out. Your valve body. You got to go all the way down quite a bit. You can just use like a crescent or what have you. You might need a friend too. But you're going to go right underneath that lock nut. Just like that to hold everything in place. There's special tools you can buy and stuff to make sure you don't mar anything up. But really, as long as you stay kind of tight but not too tight with a crescent wrench, works just as good. Alright, and now we're going to back it up here on the lower section and break it loose up top get the valve body off, pull out the dampening rod, and then we're going to flip the forks around, unscrew it, and pull the emulsion chamber out. Alright, I'm just backing it up with another crescent wrench. We're going to break this loose. Oh, it might be too small. Might need an actual wrench. I'm going to have to get a real wrench. Looks like the last time somebody was working on this, they weren't using a crescent or even a wrench. It looks like pliers, vice grips. It's terrible. Ever do that? 14. Nope. Yeah, 15. So 15 and 17 up top. Project ATV for the win again. Alright, we got it broke loose. Alright, there's our, oh, it's so cold, it's thick and tacky. Get that out. Your D ring damper rod. Oh, actually this one isn't D, it's just round. And then get your crescent back. Move all this out of the way for the teardown. Let me adjust this camera so we can see what we're doing here. Alright, so we're just gonna screw this cap back off. And you're just gonna pull your cartridge all the way out. Ooh, so nasty. Thick and tacky, it's terrible. Damn, I hate the winter. Now I get to clean that off. Lay this down out of the way. And we're just letting all the excess oil drain off of the cartridge real quick. We're going to make sure it compresses and comes back. And it comes all the way back. Alright, good. So we don't have to mess with our inner cartridge. Thank goodness. Save me some time and money. I don't want to buy tools for it just yet. I got big things going on with other machines right now. Yeah. I mean, and it's very dark oil, even though it's thick and tacky because it's so cold, it's still really dark. It means these forks did their jobs. And now with the inner tube, you still have the spring in there. Really, you're just gonna, I don't want it to touch the come on, it can't be that cold that it stays stuck in there. Oh man, cold weather sucks so bad. I'm getting everything so nasty, covered in all this super tacky oil. I'm gonna get this spring out real quick and I'll be right back. So the spring don't want to come out, whatever, it'll come out naturally or it can stay in there. It's really not going to make a difference other than weight when I pull these apart. So with this, you have this tiny little dust seal, or not tiny little, but the dust seal at the end of the fork, and you're just going to pry it away from the outer fork tube. Be careful not to damage your inner fork tube because then your machine won't seal and you pretty much ruin a fork tube and have to replace it. So after you get the dust ring up, you have a tiny clip on the inside and it's got tabs on it that you can use to pry it up and out with. Again, be careful not to damage your inner tube. Pull this little clip out and then get to play Stretch Armstrong. And then you'll have your bushings, your spacer, and your seal. God damn, I'm making a mess. God damn it. Some bitch. Anyway, so we're going to take these off one at a time. Starting with the top one. Get that one off. And if you need to, stack them in the order that the way they came off. I do it anyways. Just so you don't get them flipped around. Like this one, that'd be really bad if you flip that one around. Get your old fork seal off. And then your clip and your dust ring. And again, I'm just stacking them in order the way they came off. Right. Then you're just going to wipe down your fork tube, get all the excess old oil off. And this is where you're going to inspect everything. You're going to first start with your inner fork tube, and you're going to look for any kind of scuffing, any kind of scratches, any kind of dings or dents. If you have anything like that, your fork seals aren't going to seal. And you'd be doing a whole job for nothing, and I know they're expensive, but you would have to get a new one. Everything looks pretty good. Fork spring is still in there. It won't come out. Might be bad. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not worried about it right now. Like I said, we're going to do a whole build later on this year with this. Alright. You want to check your inner fork tube, or your outer fork tube, I'm sorry. Check for any kind of scarring, anything like that. And now I'm going to go through and clean everything. Clean this out with brake clean. Wipe this down. Really, I should flush it out, and I'm going to. I'm going to do it anyways. But even with the spring in there, it's just going to take a little bit longer. So I'll be back as soon as I get these all cleaned out. Alright, got them all cleaned out. Got the new parts strung out. I went with a Pivot Works fork rebuild kit because I didn't know what I was going to run into when I tore this apart. Really, the bushings are still good. You could still use them, but I'm going to replace them because I bought the kit anyways. So now what we're going to do is just put the fork tubes back together. We're going to start there, and then the inner cartridge, it's just going to be reversed from the way we took it apart. So what you're going to want to do too is on your inner fork tube. That's the way I always do it. If you're going to save the fork seals, you have these sharp edges on this, and you'd probably just run masking tape over that if you're going to save the fork seals, which I don't know why you would. You just replace a fork seal set. But you just take this little plastic bag. I'm using the one that the fork seals came in. Put it over it. It just helps guide it over the sharp edges without causing damage to your fork seal or dust seal. And then we're going to put our dust seal on, and I always lube them up with the fork oil that you're going to be using. Get nice and lubed on there. Kind of walk it on. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. I don't know why this is putting up such a fight. There you go. Easy. Walk it over the second one. Just take it all the way down. And up and down a couple times. Alright, replace the dust seal, set that off to the side. Next is the circlip. Drop that on there. Next is your new fork seal. Now always remember, the rule of thumb of fork seals, or any seal really, is the numbers are facing out. Fork seals are pretty easy because I have this one that's got a little spring holding the inside in. And this will always be facing the oil side. And the one, if it has a rib facing on the outside, it'll also have a little spring on it. That always faces the outside, towards the bottom of the fork. So remember, this side towards the fork oil. So it's going to be going on like this. Lube this up, put it on. I'll run it on the outside now. Help with ease of installation. Just realized I forgot to pull out my fork seal driver, which is another important thing to have for this, is the fork seal driver. If you don't have the correct fork seal driver, you're probably going to damage the seal on installation. So, replace that. Next is this dealy bop. And on the Kayaba 450, that recess, it's going to go on like this. The way it came off. Hopefully it was installed correctly. I probably should have looked up a parts diagram to make sure. And then your new inner bushing rides on the inside of the fork tube, the inner fork tube. Don't need this now. And then, so we replace that one, and then the outer one we're replacing now too with this new one. And give it a little oil, a little lubrication, inside, outside. And you slide it right into that groove. Right into this groove. Man, I was out of picture that whole time, wasn't I? Damn it. Gotta watch this. But anyways, that one on that groove. Just sits in there nice and tight. And now, the fun part. So we're going to take the outer tube and put it on the inner tube. Make sure it slides in nice and easy. Then we're going to keep going. I'm going to readjust this camera and grab the fork seals because you can't see anything that I'm doing right now. Alright, camera, fork seal driver. So the fork seal, you're just going to kind of help in place. It will fall, it should pretty much go in by itself pretty easily. If not, you probably got the wrong seal fork driver. Or wrong size fork seal. So just kind of set it down as far as you can with your fingers. You know, like that far, that's, you know, sets in there pretty easy by itself. And you're going to need a 48mm fork seal driver. Now, you could get a universal kit. DRC offers one that I dislike, very much so, because it's made out of plastic and can bend and conform and eventually ruin itself. To be honest with you, when it comes to suspension, Motion Pro and Race Tech will never fail you. Mad props for these guys. But you're just going to lightly drive the fork seal into the outer tube. And you're just going to go, and you hear that click, you probably hit the bottom there. To verify, lift up, and on the inside where that snap ring is going to go, should be visible above the fork seal. And if it is, you've got it down far enough. So we just take our fork seal driver off. Remember, 48mm fork seal driver for these Kayabas. Pretty big for a dirt scoop. Set your snap ring in place. Normally you can get it started with your fingers, like so, and then just flathead screwdriver. Click, click. It's in there. And now with this, I did not lube this side, so I'm going to do it now. With your dust seal, you're just going to put this in by hand if you can. If not, you could probably find a larger seal or a larger fork seal driver. Use it to drive it in on the outer edge and not on the actual sealing surface. But in reality, you can push it in with your fingers if you're strong enough. And if you can do that, that means the ladies are going to like you when you get older, or like you more now. Now, another thing that I did not mention earlier, that I need to mention now, is this little C-clip on your outer fork tube. You need to always inspect this. I'm replacing it right now, because this is what protects your outer fork tube from your fork guard, from causing damage to your outer fork tube. Of course, this is going to put up a small fight. Bada bing, bada boom. Clippity clippity, stickity stickity. That's what's nice with that Pivot Works kit. It gives you a lot of stuff, enough to build everything, which we're not going to use all the O-rings, because like I said, we're not going in to the cartridge. We're not going to go into the inner chamber, replace it, because I don't have Kayaba tools. I did not expect to run into this, and when I did my research, I was like, okay, Honda, whatever, don't use your own company. Alright. Alright. So, inner chamber, I'm replacing the O-ring up top, the sealing O-ring that goes up here. I've already taken the old one off. I have the new one here. And a thing that I noticed with this Pivot Works kit as well is that it did not come with a bushing that the inner chamber rides on. Again, the bushings were fine on this. So, but if you want to make sure, you're probably going to have to buy an OEM one to replace it. I'm just going to put this over. Alright. This is where your spring is going to ride on. All we're going to do is put this in. Keep some butt head shot out. And we're just going to make it to where it makes a seal. Before we put the damper rod in, I didn't clean it out. I forgot to clean that out. So I'm going to clean that out real quick, and then we're going to replace on your rebound this copper washer and this O-ring right here. I'll be right back after I clean the damper rod. Alright, so another thing the kit was missing was this O-ring here that creates a seal at the bottom end of your forks. But it did come with the new crush washer. And you always want the sharp edge of the crush washer, the sharp outer edge, to go towards the sealing surface. Rounded edge towards flush surface, sharp edge towards sealing surface. Okay, and now what we're going to do is compress again. You might have to pull on it. This is where friends come in handy. So sometimes it's a struggle. Oh, get that back arch. Oh yeah. Phew. Alright. So damper rod. You're going to make sure it goes all the way down and seats on that one up the opposite end. It's not grabbing it. Maybe if we flip it around, do it. It's a fucking hair. I've seen that hair. There it is. Don't want no hair in my suspension system. I guess the only bad part about having a beard. Alright, there we go. And then you're going to take this and just screw it on. We don't want to damage anything, because I want to go ride this thing tomorrow. Alright, so we'll have a little bit of a gap. There's a little breakaway, and then we start going into place. And you're just going to go a little bit more than snug. I guess if you work on machines a lot, you'll develop a feel. A little bit more than snug. Get our crescent back. Make sure that slides all the way up. And then screw it in place. Oh man, I hope that wasn't out of picture the whole time. Let's try it like that. And I really hope that wasn't out of picture. It's just the same way, we're going together the same way we came apart. The exact opposite steps. It's a lot of threads, man. Ah, there we go. Alright. Now, I'm going to do the camera to the ground. And we're going to do the same thing we did when we broke this loose. Stick your axle. And a little more than snug. A little more than snug. Alright. Now, back up here. Eyes up here. Another hair. And another hair. I have to trim this bad boy. Just kidding. Ha! Alright. Now, that's where you're going to add your oil. This time I went with Maxima. I'd use Race Tech, but I'm using Maxima because I want to go ride. Okay? And I'm not going to wait for Race Tech to ship me oil. I should have been more prepared, but I'm not. I'm sorry. Anyways, it's 300 to 370 cc's you can work with on your oil. And I'm going to go with 350 cc's because I want it a little bit more stiffer than it was before. It was just too plush. Too plush. Even for cornering, it was a little too plush. Wanted to wash out. But, you know, little adjustments and it was a lot better. You just add your 350 cc's of oil down yonder. Make sure it all goes inside the inner fork tube. If you get it on the outside of the fork tube, doesn't really matter. It's going to go to the inner side. But and lean back. These ratio rights are sweet, especially if you ride 2 strokes. Love ratio rights. Alright. And we are going to go down as tight as we can with our hands. When I install this on the machine, I will finish tightening the top of the fork cap. After I tighten the bottom clamps, leave the top clamps loose so you don't damage the fork tube and you can actually get them tight. So nice and hand tight so you don't spill or leak any oil anywhere. And you're all done. And you just do the exact same thing to the other fork. There's no difference between the two. Yeah. Should have got some micro bleeders for this. Well, that's that. I hope that helps somebody out at least. Because, you know, can't have techs do it for you all the time, man. Got to get to know your bike. Got to love her. Catch you guys later.